Week 1 of fantasy is in the books, and I hope your fantasy season started off better than the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett and Russ Wilson, because if you watched that game last night, wow, is all I have to say. That was just... I mean, every time you take Javonte Williams out of the game, you hurt yourself. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about waiver wire pickups for Week 2 in the NFL. It always feels like this should be called Week 1 waivers, but people count the first week before the season starts, Week 1. So this is Week 2 of waiver wire pickups. I just want to preface with this. There have been in years past, like the Elijah Mitchells, the James Robinsons, where I'm going to spend all my money on these people right away. I don't think that player exists this week. I don't think that we're at that point yet in the fantasy season where we haven't seen enough, and we haven't seen teams... I don't know. It's a hard way to describe it, but I don't think we've seen enough of teams form their identity yet. I'm a big believer in teams need to form their identity, and we don't know with a lot of these teams, and that means roles are going to be evolving and expanding. But if you did have a player get hurt or you need someone to pick up, I've listed out a few of my favorite players to pick up this week off the waiver wires for Week 2 in fantasy. So let's talk about these players. Starting with the San Francisco 49ers. Who would have thought we'd be here Week 2? Everybody with a brain. It's happened. Literally the same exact thing happened with Raheem Mostert last year. Enter Elijah Mitchell. And now Elijah Mitchell is the Raheem Mostert. Always the apprentice, never the master, to quote the great Dwight Schrute. After Elijah Mitchell went down, he sprained his MCL, so he'll be out for 8 weeks. Jeff Wilson came in and took over the workload literally instantly, but it wasn't impressive. I posted on our Instagram that I didn't even put Jeff Wilson on the Instagram because I don't think he's worth picking up. I don't think he's worth spending any money. I'm also not going to tell you how to budget your fab because I'm terrible at budgeting in real life. So if you like the guy, spend money on him. If you don't, you don't. I'll just describe and give my analysis, and you could do with that what you will. But Jeff Wilson only had 9 carries after Elijah Mitchell got hurt. I just think that this 49ers backfield is such a mess, and everything that I said about Deebo Samuel, I'm not going to say it's completely wrong yet, but he's definitely still the best running back on this team. You also have Trey Lance, who's also kind of a running back, and then you have Tyrion Davis-Price and Jordan Mason, Jordan Mason. Why I don't think you should pick up Jeff Wilson is because he's not the biggest back on this team, and I think that he's going to be involved primarily as the pass-catching back. I think they have this this plethora of running backs exactly for this moment, and my pick, honestly, is Tyrion Davis-Price. I know I'm in the minority on telling you to target Tyrion Davis-Price, but here's why I would pick Tyrion Davis-Price over Jeff Wilson and Jordan Mason. Everybody in your league is probably going to try to pick up Jeff Wilson, so if you want to pick him up, you're going to have to spend a lot of fab on him. I don't think his role is that significant, and I don't think he keeps whatever role he has for a long period of time. Jordan Mason was like a 7th or 6th round pick that he has gotten a lot of good reviews from camp and leading into the season, but they spent a 3rd round pick on Tyrion Davis-Price. He's the biggest, fastest back. I think he's definitely going to take over the goal line work from Jeff Wilson. Again, probably not right away, but he's the one that you're going to get the cheapest because people are going to try to be cute and pick up Jordan Mason because he's trending on the sleeper app, but everybody's forgotten about Tyrion Davis-Price, who they spent the 3rd round draft pick on. So I do think that TDP, and you could be saying like, oh, well, they did the same thing with Trey Sermon and look at how that turned out. But I think Tyrion Davis-Price is what they thought Trey Sermon was going to be. So with all that being said, I would pick up one of these 3. My pick would be the cheapest is Tyrion Davis-Price. Jordan Mason has a good shot at carving out a role, and I think Jeff Wilson is going to be the most immediate impact player on this list. Next up, I got Isaiah Pacheco, who probably, honestly, isn't even available. There's probably a 50-50 shot he's available in your league. I was pretty surprised Pacheco got 0 targets, but he had 12 attempts, and 6 of them came in the red zone. He ran for 62 yards and a touchdown. To put it in perspective, CEH only had 7 attempts for 42 yards. I think that Pacheco's role is only going to expand, where CEH, I still have no confidence in him. I don't see why this year he's going to make it work all of a sudden. Sure, he's a first-round pick, and he's going to have those big games like he should have been having, but he had 2 receiving touchdowns. I don't think that's going to be a common occurrence, and I don't really think that he's going to be as efficient with his opportunities as he was in week 1. I think Pacheco has been the player getting the most noise out of camp. He's beat out Ronald Jones already. He's beat out Jerick McKinnon already. I think CEH, this is his last stand, and I think that his role in this offense is going to be taken over by Pacheco. Worst case scenario, I do think Pacheco might be a viable flex option because CEH got 0 red zone carries. They all went to Pacheco. So he already has that role. The role that could change is, like we saw in the preseason, I think Pacheco has the opportunity to pick up red zone targets. He didn't see any week 1, but I think that's something that's going to be expanding in his role in the Chiefs offense. So I like Pacheco a lot. I would put if Pacheco is available, I'd probably throw it. I'm just going to stick out a number. I don't know if it's even right, but I would throw out like 10 fab on him if you could, 10 to 15. Make sure you could get him because Pacheco, I think his role, he's a player where like he has a role and it's only going to grow. So I would definitely spend some money on Pacheco. Now on to I didn't even say, but those were the only 2 running backs on this list. Now on to the wide receivers. First up, I got Kyle Phillips. Kyle Phillips reminds me a lot of kind of how the Raiders used Hunter Renfrow last year, as in a reliable slot option. He didn't see a lot of opportunity in the red zone. But to be fair, the Titans weren't in the red zone as much as they were kind of scoring from farther out that game. But Kyle Phillips, most importantly, saw 29% of the team's targets was incredibly high. He had 6 targets for 6 receptions, and this is an offense that desperately needs a reliable passing options. Treylon Burks will get better throughout the season. But for someone you're picking up off waivers in week 1, definitely would snag Kyle Phillips. He's probably one of my favorite targets on this list. This is in no particular order, by the way. I just kind of organized it by position group. But I really liked Kyle Phillips. I liked how he played. I liked how he was used. And Ryan Tannehill definitely trusts him. I would definitely snag Kyle Phillips because he has a role in the Titans offense. He plays out of the slot, and I think Ryan Tannehill is going to look to throw to him more than the other targets on the team. Robert Woods didn't look that great, being that he's a year removed from ACL tear. And there was Dontrell Hilliard, who might get more involved in the passing game, but I don't think he has a substantial role. Derrick Henry was involved in the passing game. That's why I have him rated so high as a running back, because I think he's still Derrick Henry, and I think his role is actually going to expand in this offense. But Kyle Phillips was the one they looked to on that 1-minute drive down the field, and then Brandy Bullock missed the kick because he sucks. But anyways, I would definitely pick up Kyle Phillips. The next person on this list is Devin Duvernay. I was actually at this game, and the thing that I noticed the most was there is no 2 on this team in terms of a wide receiver. Their running game struggled a lot. Rashad Bateman is really, really good. They struggled to get Mark Andrews going, but I think that's because the Jets' defense is actually a lot better than people want to give it credit from what I saw. I mean, they held the Ravens at bay for a long time. But there was all of this speculation of who is the 2, and we heard a lot about James Prochet, however you pronounce it, in the preseason. But James Prochet was hurt, missed all of preseason, and then Devin Duvernay came in, and he only had 13.8% of the target share, but he had 4 targets for 2 touchdowns, and I think that he was second on the team in terms of target share for the wide receiver position. So this is looking like Devin Duvernay is going to be the wide receiver 2 for the Ravens. I wouldn't spend a ton of money on him, but he's definitely going to have a reliable role in this offense. I don't know how big it's going to be, but I do like the idea of, like, in deeper leagues, picking up Duvernay and stashing him just to see what happens for maybe another week. But yeah, I like Devin Duvernay a lot. Next up, I got Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. So Jahan Dotson was someone I was, like, very, very high on. If you go back and watch our mock draft videos, I love Jahan Dotson. Like, I think that it surprised me more that Washington was the team to take him that high rather than him actually getting drafted that high. Because I think he is that talented. I mean, Penn State's whole offense was Jahan Dotson, and nobody could stop it. So like, that's a big indicator to me of this kid's gonna be solid. Like you know that. Like if I tell you a punch is coming and you can't do anything to stop it, you're like, what are you going to do? So, like, Jahan Dotson, he only had 12.2% of the team's target share, 5 targets, but he had 2 red zone targets inside the 20 and 10-yard line and had 2 touchdowns. Like, this kid was a good contested catcher in college. He has a very big catch radius for his size. And he's got a ton of experience with Carson Wentz when Terry McLaurin was holding out for his contract. The surprise player, though, is Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel had 24.4% of the team's target share, 11 targets, and 3 targets inside the red zone, but between the 20, 10, and 5. You could get either of these guys, I think. Dotson probably isn't on waivers, but there's a chance he might be. Curtis Samuel, there's a very good chance he's on waivers. I think if you could get any of them, Dotson, I think, has a better outlook for the duration of the season, where Curtis Samuel has very high upside. If he could somehow keep this trend going of even seeing just like 6 or 7 targets a game as opposed to 11, I think he'll still be very useful in the Commanders' offense, especially with, if this could keep up, the Washington football team, the Commanders have actually a very good receiving core with McLaurin, Dotson, and Samuel. I don't know how much I'd spend on I'd probably spend a good bit on Dotson because he's a first-round talent. He has that first-round capital. They're going to use him. They're going to get him involved, and they did. Wentz likes him. And then I think for Samuel, I think that he's worth like a good, I think he's worth paying for. I don't know how much I would spend on him, but I think he's definitely worth it. Just being that his usage was actually very, very good, and he was very efficient with his usage, and he saw more targets than Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson. So that's a very encouraging sign. I wouldn't break the bank for him because we don't know if this is just an outlier week, but definitely keep your eye on him. Next up, I got Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry led the team in targets. He had 28.1% of the team's target share, 9 targets. He had more targets than Michael Thomas and a higher target share, obviously. I think that Jarvis Landry is just the most ready receiver right now, being that he's been playing this entire time. Chris Olave is a rookie, and Michael Thomas missed 2 years. I think that even when Michael Thomas gets more comfortable and gets more acclimated to the offense, Jarvis Landry will still be relevant. I don't think that he's going to keep this target share of 28.1% and he's going to keep it to higher target share than Michael Thomas, but I do think that he does continue to have a role in this offense where that flips with Michael Thomas and he's a 5-target receiver that is getting targeted in the red zone or whatever the case may be. I think Landry is a very, very safe pick, and he looks very comfortable in this offense, and Jameis is just chucking the ball down the field, so all good things for Jarvis Landry. I would definitely pick Jarvis Landry up if you can. I don't know how much I would spend on him. Again, like I said, I'm not that good at budgeting, so if you want him, if you need him, go ahead and grab him. But yeah, I would definitely snag Jarvis Landry. Now talking about some tight ends briefly. I got OJ Howard. There was a few tight ends I could have put on this list, but I try not to pick the tight ends that just like randomly caught a touchdown. Like there's some long-term upside here, and I think that OJ Howard coming in late in the offseason and just coming out and scoring 2 touchdowns, albeit on 2 targets. So you could just be saying, like you just said, you weren't going to pick the outlier. But I think that OJ Howard, his role in this offense is only going to expand. Like I said, he came in at the end of the offseason. They don't have another tight end that I know of that's serviceable. OJ Howard looked really good this game. I think his average depth of target was like 19 yards. I think. But he looked good. He's the only tight end on this team that they're going to play. If you don't have OJ Howard, I would definitely get him. I mean, if you were good, if you were on point, you would have took him before the season started, picked him up. But if you're a little bit late, that's fine. I would definitely get OJ Howard. He's going to be a good backup tight end. He might be a good tight end that you could plug and play on when your starter's on a bye week. But, yeah, I would definitely snag OJ Howard. He has a lot of potential in this offense, and they definitely need a tight end, and he's the only option on their roster. So, definitely would snag OJ Howard. And the last person on this list is Gerald Everett. Keenan Allen being hurt for the time being. I think he's probably going to be out. He said he might come back this Thursday, but there's no way. So, I'm going to say he'll be out for at least a week, possibly 2. And I think that this is someone who had a lot of buzz coming out of camp. Like, there was a lot of buzz around Gerald Everett of he's going to be involved, he's going to have his best season ever, blah, 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 blase, blase. It doesn't matter. He had 11.8% of the team's targets, 4 targets, all 4 were in the red zone. I think he'll definitely still be involved, and I think his role in the offense is in the red zone. Gerald Everett is a good player, man. He was good for Seattle last year, and I think that in this offense, with so many weapons, he's going to be a very reliable option in the red zone when you have to deal with or account for Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, Austin Eckler, and Justin Herbert. I think he's going to be the one that teams are just going to leave to like gamble on. If he can make the play, like gamble on him making a play, which is fine. That's his role in the offense. He's going to play in the red zone. He's going to get targeted in the red zone. Things are looking good for Gerald Everett. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. These are going to be my waiver wire targets for week 2. Check out our Instagram. I've been pumping out a lot of stuff for Instagram. It's at _Pylon_cam. But yeah, if you want to check out, if you don't have time to catch all these videos, you could definitely check out our Instagram where it has all these things kind of succinctly and neatly posted on Instagram for your consumption. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!